Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're continuing our series on the New Player's Handbook Spellcasting, talking about the Cleric. We're discussing Cleric spellcasting as we go up through the levels, and at this point we have reached level 5. The Cleric in question is a 9th level Cleric, and they've gotten their 5th level spells. 5th level spells are a turning point in the game, as at this point you are at the top tiers of Tier 2. You are in that section of the game where you will be ending a lot of low-level campaigns, a lot of mid-game stuff, and you're going to be entering into the higher levels. This is your last stop on the road before you start to get into the upper echelons of magical power. So what do we find here? I've prepared a top 5 list of 5th level cleric spells, 2 combat spells, 2 utility spells, and an honorable mention. Before we get into the details, though, I'd like to let you know, Relaxed Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can support me here on YouTube and get a couple benefits. You get a little badge next to your name in the comments, letting folks know you're a supporter. You get early access to my videos a day earlier than everyone else. And you get to come to the VIP room in my community Discord, where you can talk directly to me. If any of that stuff sounds interesting to you, you can click the join button. It's just down there next to the subscribe button. And if it doesn't interest you, that's fine too. My Discord's free for everyone to join. You can come on over and chat DnD with the community. And honestly, just watching the video, liking, subscribing to the channel, these are all great ways to support me. So thank you for watching my content here on YouTube. So let's start off with the combat spell. My number 2 pick for combat spells here at level 5 spells is Circle of Power. Circle of Power, I think, used to be a paladin exclusive, but now clerics get it as well. And I think wizards get it too. But it is genuinely an amazing spell. You cast it, it takes your concentration and creates a 30-foot emanation around you, covering probably the majority of the battlefield. You and all the allies within this emanation get magic resistance, effectively advantage against all spells and magical effects. That's a solid feature just by itself. But then you tack on to the fact that a lot of spells that you make the save for will do half damage even if you succeed. Circle of Power undoes that, making it that if you succeed a save to take half damage, you take no damage instead. And that's you and most of your party, if not all of them. This is a phenomenal support spell, great to have for a sort of armored cleric standing in the middle of the battlefield, sort of the middle line, as it were, behind the barbarian but in front of the wizard. And this is just a fantastic spell for everyone. Everyone's going to love you for this one. As far as your utility spell goes, for number 2, I've got to give it to Raise Dead. This is the mid-tier resurrection spell. At level 3rd level spells, you were working with Revivify, where you had to heal someone within 1 minute of them dying, otherwise it was too late. If you go all the way up to your level 7 spells, you got Resurrection, which lasts, can be cast on a creature within 100 years of them dying. Raise Dead is that middle ground, that more reasonable. Costs 1,000 gold pieces to cast, and you can cast it on a creature that has died within the last 10 days. Now, it doesn't restore missing body parts or organs, so, they can't have, their head chopped off or whatever. But as long as they are intact, and it's been 10 days, you can bring them back to life. They come back to life with a hit point, as well as a weakened state, a -4 to most of their rolls. This is something that will pass as they go on, resting and stuff like that. But if you lose an ally at this point in the game, and you manage to get back to town within a few days with their body, you've got Raise Dead. And because clerics can change out their spells on a long rest, you don't necessarily have to keep this one prepared all the time. You'll want Revivify around, but if you have someone die and you manage to save their body, take a long rest, grab the spell, pull out that 1,000 gold piece diamond, and go to work. You've got yourself a revived teammate at that point. So I'm going to give that the number 2 spot. Before we get to the number 1s, I got to mention the honorable mention, and that is the utility spell Greater Restoration. Greater Restoration, like Raise Dead, is one of those that I wouldn't necessarily be prepping all the time. It depends on what I'm doing. It is the heal spell that can do things that other ones can't. It doesn't restore hit points per se, but it can immediately remove exhaustion levels. That's awesome. It can get rid of the stunned or charmed or paralyzed condition. It can get creatures to lose curses. This can replace the remove curse spell, including attunement to cursed items. Greater Restoration can break that. There's also a lot of things in the game. Befuddlement is one of the ones that comes to mind, where Greater Restoration is one of the only ways to get rid of those effects. It is a solid spell. Most of the time, you're not going to need to have it prepared immediately. It's one of those that, again, you're going to want to kind of know you have it, and if someone gets a nasty condition or exhaustion starts to permeate the party, you'll want to put it in your prepared spells the next time you long rest, and then you can just start healing people all around. It costs 100 gold pieces worth of powdered diamonds in order to use. There's an old famous sorcerer warlock build called the Coffee Lock, where you use a mixture of short rest based spell regeneration from the warlock and then your sorcery points as a sorcerer to get infinite spell slots. But it requires that you never take a long rest, because those spell slots go reset on a long rest, so you need to take short rests basically forever. And since you don't get rid of exhaustion levels, you could eventually die of exhaustion, but Greater Restoration just fixes that. You get yourself some powdered diamonds and you can just get rid of exhaustion every day using it, and you never have to sleep. Of course, that's a hacky sort of build, and while it still technically works, it's not something that I recommend players do. But knowing that you can fix exhaustion on the fly, as well as a few other real nasty conditions, Greater Restoration is a home run for that. On to the number 1 spells, and for the number 1 utility spell, I'm giving it to Scrying. No big surprise there. Scrying is one of the best information gathering spells in the game. You pick a creature that you know, or at least know of, and they make a wisdom save. These wisdom saves are very vast in how hard or easy they are. For example, if you have only heard of the creature you're trying to spy and you've never met them, they get a +5 to their saving throw. But if you know them very well, you've met them extensively and maybe spoken with them, then they get a -5 to the save. If you have a picture of them or some kind of likeness that subtracts 2 from their save, if you've got a lock of their hair or a bit of their fingernail or heck, a body part of theirs of some kind, they get a -10 to their save. So the spell is very modifiable based on how easy or hard it's going to be, but it could have an up to -15, making it basically impossible for them to succeed against it. Once they fail, a scrying sensor, an invisible, intangible camera, effectively, appears within 10 feet of them and lasts for 10 minutes. It follows them around and listens to what they say and sees what they do, and you can just watch them. It is the best way to gather information on people that you know reasonably well, or if you want to risk it, you can just roll it on someone you've heard of and see what they're up to. You also can do this with a location you're familiar with. There's no save in that case, so you can just plop it in the middle of a town square or a prison or a guard tower or something like that. But if you do that, then the camera doesn't move. The sensor just stays there for 10 minutes. In spite of all of this, this is one of the coolest features in the game, and one of the easiest ways to gather information. It's a must-have spell on any character I have that can learn it, and honestly, I can't say enough good things about Scrying. But when we move into the number 1 combat spell, this one is definitely an interesting one. Summon Celestial. Summoning spells in general are pretty good. If you have the ability to summon a creature with your concentration and put them out in the battlefield, every hit they take is a hit your party doesn't. A lot of the time they have pretty cool powers. And with Summon Celestial, you actually end up with a pretty awesome damage dealer. So the Celestial that's summoned lasts for an hour with your concentration. It doesn't take an action or a bonus action for you to command it. You can just do it, and it acts on your turn. When you do this, you can summon either an Avenger or a Defender. The Avenger Angel that you summon has a 16 hit armor class, 40 hit points, and can fly. All of them can do that. But this one has a bow, a radiant bow, which shoots for 2d6 plus 2 plus the spell's level, which in this case would be 5th. So it's 2d6 plus 7 damage, 14 on average with a hit. And it uses your spell attack modifier to hit, so it's probably going to be reasonably accurate. Now, on the flip side, there is this idea that you don't want an archer. Now, that means they're going to be safe because they're flying up in the air shooting down. But if you want a tank on the battlefield, you can go with the defender. They have a radiant mace. It deals roughly the same amount of damage, but it also grants temporary hit points to creatures on the battlefield when it hits. And it has an armor class of 18 instead of 16. Still can fly, still do all that stuff, but you can put it on the battlefield as a sort of choke point tank. Not too bad. Now, is it going to go down in a couple hits? Probably, unless you upcast it, but by that point you're fighting stronger monsters anyway. I recommend the bow wielder, and just having it in the sky, firing down on your enemies, doing decent damage. It also has a once per summoning healing ability, where it can bring someone, back up, it can heal them. And yeah, it's just a good summoning spell, and it's so on point for a cleric to pray to their god and get an angel to come down and fight alongside you. Really, really can't say enough good about this spell. It isn't the best summoning spell in the game, but it's certainly up there with a ranged flying summon that also can heal and potentially grant temporary hit points. Yeah, very, very pleased with this one, and I give it my number one pick for combat tricks at this level. And that's it. If you are a 9th level cleric and you're uncertain about what spells to take, I definitely recommend Scrying and Summon Celestial. One for information, one for combat. Circle of Power is also a great combat trick. That's awesome. And make sure you remember that you have Greater Restoration and Raise Dead in your back pocket for if those situations arise. Again, most of the time you're not going to need to prepare them every single day. Depends what you're going up against. If you know death is, coming and you're not going to be able to resurrect people within a minute, maybe have it around. Greater Restoration is great if you know you're facing petrification or exhaustion for some reason. But all in all, any of these spells will serve you well. So yeah, I hope that helps. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, and keep your eyes peeled for more spellcasting reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.